I think it's a little bit like any time you play a French team. It's just you've just got to hold that momentum, because they are probably within the European structure of how you play. They're one of those teams, or French teams, that bit of momentum that then allows an offload and someone getting their hands free, and then a second bit of momentum, and then that kind of feeling that everything's going to stick. That's the thing you've got to try and knock down as quickly as you can. And I think when you do that, then that's when you start to see an error count starts to rise, and the frustration can start to rise. And so the 80-minute game plan is relatively simple. It's fitting all the bits and pieces around, your line out defence, your structures, your attack structures, and how you keep the ball against them, that create that overall picture. But I think we're relatively comfortable with the overall picture we have to create against French teams, and that's why we're kind of really looking forward to it. It'll be really good to see if we've still got those capabilities within ourselves of, as I say, of knocking that momentum out of a team. Everyone's got an upset in them, haven't they? There's one thing where, at the moment, every time we lose it's an upset, isn't it? They've got to stop being upsets, because they're happening a bit too often. We would never look at it like that. I mean, to be fair, we've not travelled to Glasgow that well. What happened there? The year we won it, we drew at Glasgow. It was a good draw from us because it got 3 points. And ironically, if we hadn't got a 3-point draw, even a 2-point draw, we probably wouldn't have had the run we had in the cup, because it meant we got Toulouse here instead of Toulouse away. You know what I mean? So it was an important losing draw. So it's one of those things. I wouldn't be sitting here and saying it's an upset if Glasgow beat us at their place, because they actually normally have. So if anything, we've got to upset the form books to go out there and win, which is obviously what we'll be aiming to do. Without obviously, with it being still 3 weeks away, the detail of what they're going to do, we've still got to do a fair bit of work on. I think the one thing that I do know, and this is only because I watched a game for them a few weeks ago when they played Leinster. The one thing they did do in that game was they scored a try down the blind side from an exit kick against Leinster, which is an absolute carbon copy of the one they hit us with last time we played up there. And even though we prepared for it for 4 or 5 training sessions, they still managed to pull it off. And so I'm still looking at it thinking they've still got enough kind of tricks up their sleeve within the patterns they play and where they see teams who've got weaknesses to kind of potentially hurt us in those areas. So for us, we probably won't be talking about marshalling individual players too much, but it will be about having a focus on those areas where they do get themselves well prepared for what you do and where their opportunities will come. So that's what I'll say we'll probably spend the analysis time on, is looking at where they think their counter-attack opportunities or their attack opportunities will start, because that's typically where they've threatened us before. It's when they've been quite good at knowing where they're going to get a ball and creating something that's damaged us from that. So potentially where we've given them the ball, they're well organised from. And I think it's going to be more that phase play and those attack structures that we'll have a good discussion with and a good analysis of. I think you're 100% right, because it was the one missing ingredient. The one missing ingredient was thinking, what would it be like walking around the pitch with, 20, 30, whatever it would have been, Exeter Chiefs supporters there. And that is probably still that unscratched itch, so to speak, in Europe. Because when you've done it, haven't you? But it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same. And I think that's probably. I know there's certain players, particularly certain players whose families weren't there. It would have meant. That would have been it. That would have been the icing on the cake. That would have meant everything. If anything, playing in front of their family would have meant more than winning the Heineken Cup probably did without them there. And it's an odd way of describing it, but if anything, the emotional outpouring we saw after that game, well, you were there, we saw after that game from the players when they're on the phone to their families, is incredible. You wouldn't kind of quite believe it. You'd think it would all be joy and just smiling and laughing and joking. There were periods of that, but that actually, most of that came after a period of tears and emotion, didn't it? It was really.
I was thinking about it now. It was really strange, wasn't it? It was
You
real.
remember what I was like? I was all doing, and that's kind of what it was like. It was that kind of a day, and I'd like it. I'd like them to feel something different. I'd like them to see some real joy, on the field with their families. That would be the icing on our European cake, without doubt.